the table to negotiate some kind of deal. But that, of course, remains to be seen at this hour.
You couldn't help but notice, Kristen, that the vice president was standing behind the president. The Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, was there. The Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth. They were all standing behind the president. I guess that's designed to underscore that this was a unanimous decision by the top national security officials over in the Trump administration.
That's right, Wolf. And it's really interesting to see that, because that's not generally what you see when you see presidents take to this East Room to deliver this kind of address. And when President Obama delivered an address in the exact same spot, announcing that the United States had killed Osama bin Laden, he did it by himself. You usually see these kind of addresses. We've seen President Trump, who tends to do them actually in the Oval Office. He believes, he's said privately, he thinks that's more powerful, by himself. But as you noted, he clearly brought these three people behind him, Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, and Vice President J.D. Vance. He also thanked, the only other official that he thanked was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Dan Kane, in that speech. Brought them with him to show a sign of unity, but also giving us an understanding of something. When these decisions have been made in past administrations, they are usually made by a lot more larger group that includes career officials in terms of briefing. This is a very small, insular group of Trump loyalists who were in this room tonight with the president when he made this decision.
All right, Kristen Holmes over at the White House for us. Thanks very, very much. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has reacted very positively to the U.S. strikes, thoroughly, without any doubt, fully endorsing President Trump's decision and the U.S. action. Listen to this.
Congratulations, President Trump. Your bold decision to target Iran's nuclear facilities with the awesome and righteous might of the United States will change history. In Operation Rising Lion, Israel has done truly amazing things. But in tonight's action against Iran's nuclear facilities, America has been truly unsurpassed. It has done what no other country on earth could do. History will record that President Trump acted to deny the world's most dangerous regime the world's most dangerous weapons. His leadership today has created a pivot of history that can help lead the Middle East and beyond to a future of prosperity and peace. President Trump and I often say, peace through strength. First comes strength, then comes peace. And tonight, President Trump and the United States acted with a lot of strength. President Trump, I thank you. The people of Israel thank you. The forces of civilization thank you. God bless America. God bless Israel. And may God bless our unshakable alliance, our unbreakable faith.
I want to bring in CNN's Anderson Cooper, who's been reporting for us from Tel Aviv. Anderson, given what's going on, given the history, given the threats that Iran has launched not only against Israel, but against some 40,000 U.S. troops in the region, I suspect in Israel, where you are now in Tel Aviv, there's a bit of nervousness. Are the Iranians going to retaliate by going after various more targets in Israel?
It's interesting, Wolf. Obviously, this occurred in the overnight hours here in Israel. It was about just before 3 a.m. In Tel Aviv that this news broke. So a lot of Israelis, dawn is just now breaking here. A lot of Israelis are waking up and hearing this news now for the first time. It's now been several hours since then. It's been more than 3 hours. There have not been any air raid sirens going off since then. It's Sunday morning here. Saturday, there were no air raid sirens as well. Friday, there were two, and thankfully no fatalities on that day. It's unclear how much of that is just how much the Iranian missile capabilities have been reduced. The IDF has said that they have already destroyed half the launchers for missiles that would have been fired from Iran. So I think a lot of Israelis are going to be surprised and heartened by the news when they wake up and hear it this morning. This operation by Israel is very popular here in Israel, and there's certainly a lot of people here who wanted President Trump to make this decision to go after and try to destroy these facilities. Remains to be seen the extent of the damage. It seems like Brett McGurk on our air talked to a senior official involved in this. They seem pleased with the level of destruction that they were able to achieve. It's likely, though, today we may learn more. Certainly, U.S. officials will learn more as they have more overflights and are able to actually really assess the damage fully. Hopefully, we'll hear some more information about that. The question remains, of course, what happens next? Will Iran try to respond by firing missiles here to Israel? Will they respond through proxy forces? Though those proxy forces have been, as you well know, Wolf, very weakened. Hezbollah, Hamas as well, the change of regime in Syria. Israel has already eliminated a lot of the air defenses that Syria had, which allowed for these flights, made these flights and the continued flights by Israel a little bit easier over Iranian airspace. And Israel still has control over the Iranian airspace, more or less. So it remains to be seen what levers the Iran regime decides to try to pull. They still have also the Houthis who have made some pronouncements already. That may occur today. We don't know the timetable for that. So there's a lot of moving pieces to this, but this is certainly something that's going to be received with a lot of excitement and appreciation here in Israel.
Yeah, the Israelis made it clear, officially and unofficially, for days and days and days, that they were really hoping the U.S. would use those B-2 bombers and those 30,000-pound bunker buster bombs to destroy Iran's nuclear enrichment program at Natanz, at Fordo, Isfahan, and there are capabilities of doing more. And they acknowledge, the Israelis, correct me if I'm wrong, that the Israeli military did not have that kind of direct capability. If they were going to go and try to destroy those kinds of capabilities that the Iranians had in nuclear enrichment, they would have to do a ground invasion, which would cost a lot of potentially Israeli military lives. Was that the assessment you were getting all this time as well?
Yeah, I think they tried to be kind of opaque about their capabilities. You would, when you would ask Israeli officials this, they would say, well, look, we've thought through these operations. We're not dependent on the U.S. There's things we can do. They never really went into details. There was an operation that they conducted against a facility in Syria in the not too distant past, using commandos. A very different kind of operation, but there was some suggestion that they did have some capabilities, but certainly they did not have these kind of munitions, which the U.S. is the only power that has them, and also the only planes that could actually carry bombs that are 30,000 pounds, and also multiple ones that we now understand have been used. So. Certainly, there's a lot of relief, I think, by people here that the United States, that President Trump made this decision. Remains to be seen what the follow-on actions are going to be by Iran. But this regime, and I think here it's widely acknowledged, this regime in Iran is weakened in a way that none of us, Wolf, you've been reporting on this region for a long, long time, none of us have seen for a very, very long time. The proxy forces that they do have access to are greatly weakened, and again, remains to be seen how much power they can project and where they choose to strike, if that's what they choose to do.
Yeah, and President Trump, as we all heard, minced no words at all. He called it a spectacular military success for the U.S. in this struggle against Iran's nuclear program. Anderson, we'll stay in very close touch with you. Thanks again for your excellent reporting. We appreciate it very, very much. I want to go right now to CNN's security correspondent, Kylie Atwood, who's in Washington for us. Kylie, update our viewers what you're hearing.
Well, listen, one significant thing that we have learned tonight is that the United States made sure that Iran knew after these strikes through back-channel communications that this was a contained strike against Iran's nuclear facilities, and there were no further strikes that were planned. That's significant because what it demonstrates is that the administration really does not want Iran to retaliate here. They want them to come back to the table diplomatically. We heard from President Trump in his remarks saying that for Iran, this is going to be peace or tragedy. But he also went on to say that there are many targets left. So holding on to the possibility that there could be further U.S. strikes against Iran if they don't come back to the table to continue those diplomatic discussions that had halted because they had not had any success and led to what we are now seeing, this military conflict between the U.S. and Iran, and between Iran and Israel. One thing I do want to note, Wolf, is that as we are speaking, there is a drawdown of U.S. diplomatic personnel at the U.S. diplomatic missions in Iraq, in Baghdad and in Erbil. This is something that actually started to happen 10 days ago, even before Israel started carrying out its strikes in Iran, because U.S. officials were seeing that that was a possibility. They wanted to start to draw down non-essential personnel from those missions. Now there is an even further drawdown of those personnel. It's not a complete drawdown, I'm told by sources familiar with this process. We have to watch and see what happens here, not just at the U.S. diplomatic missions, of course, in Iraq, which shares a border with Iran, but also in the U.S. diplomatic missions, the U.S. embassies in the entire region. And there's also many Americans who are in the region and obviously concerned tonight that this could turn into a wider conflict. We don't know if that will be the case, but we'll have to watch and see if the United States makes any moves to provide any evacuations for Americans who are in the region. We know that that effort is underway when it comes to Americans who are in Israel. We don't know exactly how many Americans have left, but that was a process that actually started today, according to the ambassador there, Mike Huckabee.
And I thought it was significant, Kylie, and I'm anxious to get your thoughts, that in his speech, in his address to the nation, and as I said, indeed to the world, he was making it clear that the United States and Israel, the current government in Israel, the Trump administration, they are both on the same page. He was praising what Israel has been doing and promising to work closely together with Israel down the road. I thought that was significant. What was your reaction?
It's very clear from President Trump's remarks tonight that this was lockstep, the United States working with Israel. We know that Israel was given a heads up before these strikes occurred tonight on Iran's nuclear sites, those 3 nuclear sites inside Iran. We know that after these strikes occurred, according to senior administration officials, President Trump spoke on the phone with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And we should note that it is a drastic shift in terms of the response that we saw from the administration.
A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before. With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill, most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's what we did tonight Not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago.
Congratulations, President Trump. Your bold decision to target Iran's nuclear facilities with the awesome and righteous might of the United States will change history. In Operation Rising Lion, Israel has done truly amazing things. But in tonight's action against Iran's nuclear facilities, America has been truly unsurpassed. It has done what no other country on earth could do. History will record that President Trump acted to deny the world's most dangerous regime the world's most dangerous weapons. His leadership today has created a pivot of history that can help lead the Middle East and beyond to a future of prosperity and peace. President Trump and I often say, peace through strength. First comes strength, then comes peace. And tonight, President Trump and the United States acted with a lot of strength. President Trump, I thank you,